Sure. Another question on the in an interview with the Los Angeles Times on April 21st, you said that you told the Associated Press that the American government has created weather tampering techniques so that the New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans and to control the rest. Would you explain what you were trying to say?
Well, what I was trying to say is exactly what I said. There is weather control techniques. We have a complete package on that, which I did not bring, but I certainly will see to it that it is brought in for the record. Number one, the entire patents on the equipment. Number two, Senator Claiborne Pell's complete statement and story of his own that not only does it exist, but that we even utilized it as far back as the Vietnam War. You might want to touch base with Senator Pell.
I just want to repeat before I turn to
questions. Yes, but we do have all that information.
You're saying the government has created weather tampering techniques so that the, quote, New World Order will be able to starve millions of Americans.
Worldwide.
Millions of Americans, and to control the rest.
Yes, sir, and that's my belief. As bizarre as that sounds, if somebody had told me that that equipment even existed 10 years ago, I would have thought they were nuts, sir. And at this point in time, we have all the documents to prove it. And if you think that 85 tornadoes takes place in the middle of our growing area by simultaneous accident, I'm sorry. With the equipment that's already set up internationally, and as bizarre as that is, it is proven and documented. We will supply you with those documents. As bizarre as that is, I would say that weather wars, and this is quoting actually Senator Claiborne Pell himself, that they are the greatest weapon ever created in the world, and that's the Senator's own statement. So yes, I do stand on that.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.
Good afternoon. This is Hector Rivas reporting. Upon receiving a report from a top associate in dialogue with leading officials in Washington, Lyndon LaRouche concluded that technically the United States has been lost and the world has just suddenly changed. What is being referenced by Lyndon LaRouche is the pure evil behind the deal set forth by President Barack Obama with the leadership of both parties in the legislative branch, made last night at the White House and scheduled for vote today to settle the so-called debt ceiling issue. In reality, what occurred was a coup against the Constitution and against the people of America, a motion intended to be worse than Adolf Hitler's fascist coup. The deal is this. If the deal set forth by Obama passes, it will involve $1 trillion in cuts to go through immediately, which is atrocious enough. Razor-sharp fascist austerity. But that's not the real kicker. The real kicker is that its passage includes a measure by Obama to create a super Congress, a committee of 12 representatives made up of 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans, tasked with the power, authority, and responsibility to decide on an additional $1.5 trillion in cuts by mid to late November of this year to be presented to the full Congress of the United States federal government. However, Congress, when presented with the recommendations of the Group of 12, will not be allowed to make any amendments or to filibuster. The only actions they are allowed to take is to vote yea or nay. And if they vote nay, that is against it, then regardless, $1.5 trillion in cuts will be made automatically, divided up half and half between defense and domestic entitlements without any discussion. Obama has put together this package, which represents fascist austerity, no doubt on behalf of his masters of London and Wall Street. The threat of default by the United States and the threat of lowering the nation's credit rating was held over the heads of Congress, who were told that if these cuts were not made, if a decision wasn't made on the debt ceiling by August 2nd, then the stock markets would crash and they would be held responsible for it. In reality, that's bullshit. But far more serious is the aspect of Obama's measure which is plainly unconstitutional. A Supreme Congress which eliminates the ability of the actual legislative branch to have any say on the decisions they make? What it comes down to is that this legislative decision is made under the will of Obama and the Committee of 12. And if our representation in the Congress are not prepared to do what Obama wants, then decisions will be made automatically. Congress must be told that voting for these cuts, voting to authorize Obama's Supreme Congress, his coup, is a vote for treason and will be held accountable for voting for an act that is in violation of the U.S. Constitution. To believe or to suggest that this is the only way is a lie. Glass-Steagall is the only way.
At the current moment, Barack Obama is attempting to nullify the American system of government. If you want to know what a Hitler coup looks like, here it is. Anybody now hesitating to act to remove Obama from the presidency is signing the death warrant for the United States. If Obama succeeds in eliminating the constitutional powers of the legislative branch, you will see in very short order the bodies of dead Americans piling up in the streets. The Congress is now being held at the point of a gun to vote to nullify their own constitutional authority and grant Obama dictatorial power by emergency decree. With the budget deal which Obama announced overnight, not only will $1 trillion in cuts go into effect immediately, but a super Congress, an Uber Congress, will be convened to dictate another $1.5 trillion in cuts. This bicameral committee of 6 Democrats and 6 Republicans would be tasked to recommend a fascist austerity package by November 23rd, at which point both houses of Congress would be required to vote yes or no. They cannot amend it. They cannot filibuster. If the Congress votes no on the package, $1.5 trillion in cuts to defense and domestic entitlements will be triggered automatically anyway. The issue here is not a budget question or the debt ceiling. Obama, in collusion with the British Empire, has orchestrated a campaign of terror against the elected representatives of our government to force them to concede their constitutionally mandated power to a dictatorial supra-legislative body. This is the Obama plan. He has claimed credit for it, and the credit indeed is all his. He is guilty of being an Adolf Hitler. In the same way that Hitler used the Reichstag fire, the threat from Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and other rating agencies to downgrade the U.S. debt is the environment of terror being used by Obama to ram through a dictatorial fascist coup. Look at the facts. Obama was directly collaborating with British agent David Beers of S&P to orchestrate the pretext for a coup against the U.S. Constitution. This is treason in the constitutional definition of the word. Obama deserves to be immediately removed from office now on charges of adhering to the interests of a foreign power against the lives and welfare of the citizens of the United States. And anybody in the Congress who votes for this coup d'etat is voting for treason against their nation, and they will be held accountable. LaRouche PAC is currently mobilizing a mass resistance in the American population. The 6-candidate LaRouche Democratic slate has condemned this Hitler coup plan for what it is. A mass leaflet is now in circulation, and field teams of the LaRouche PAC organization are on the streets across the country delivering the message that our only defense is Glass-Steagall now. In this emergency situation, Glass-Steagall could be passed today. Glass-Steagall has now become the only weapon of strategic defense that our nation has to head off this coup. Bankrupt the enemy, remove Obama from office. If we don't act now, we've nullified our system of government and we've lost the United States.